Layla's hands trembled as she swept dust off the battered floorboards in her grandmother's old cottage, a place of childhood memories and soft, salty breezes. It was the sort of morning that painted everything in gentle gold, and though grief hung in the air, Layla found comfort among the garden fragrances drifting in through her cracked window. Mid-sweep, her broom caught on something loose. Kneeling, she pried up a warped plank, and there, wedged in the shadows, she found a stack of letters tied tightly with a faded red ribbon. The envelopes, yellowed and unposted, pulsed with unspoken stories. Her name wasn't on any, and yet, in that moment, she felt chosen. Curiosity got the better of her. She untied the ribbon carefully, preserving the tiny bow. The handwriting was beautiful, sweeping and vulnerable, addressed not to her, but to a Rowan E. Marchette, a name spoken in rare, quiet whispers around the village. With a racing heart, Layla read the first one. The words were raw, confessions of longing and regret. If only the sea would carry these words to you. If only I were brave enough to let you see me completely, Rowan. As she finished, the walls of her cottage seemed to lean in closer. The artist who lived alone at the cliffs, the recluse with the paint-stained hands, the one whose eyes never met hers in the market. Should she really deliver them? Was it her place? Just then, her friend Cass popped her head through the door, silver bell earrings chiming. "Anything good under there? Treasure map?" Layla smiled, hiding the shaking in her voice. "Something like that." Cass eyed her. "You look like you found a secret." "I think I did." Later, standing at her window, fingers brushing faint cursive, Layla watched the waves batter the jagged cliffs. She imagined Rowan reading these words for the first time, the lines between loneliness and hope blurring. With a determined breath, she knew what she had to do. Tomorrow, she would climb the cliffs and deliver the letters in red. The next morning dawned foggy, with gulls crying above the village rooftops. Layla packed the bundle of letters in her satchel, heart tickling her ribs every step of the way. The path to Rowan's house was narrow and curled along the cliffs like a ribbon unfurling in the wind, the sea churning below with secret promises and memories. Her thoughts tangled with every footstep. What if Rowan was angry? What if the letters were never meant to find him? Still, curiosity and the gentle push of something unnameable kept her moving upward. Rowan's cottage was a burst of color among the gray rocks, windowsills crowded with wildflowers, a riot of paintings propped against the porch. Layla hesitated, smoothing her skirt and rehearsing her words. Gathering courage, she knocked. The sound echoed beyond the threshold. After a moment, the door creaked open. Rowan stared, a shock of dark hair, flecks of blue paint on his forearms, and eyes cautious yet bright. "Yes?" His voice was low, guarded but not unfriendly. Layla offered a nervous smile. I found something that belongs to you. Letters, hidden in my cottage." Rowan's hand paused mid-air, fingers curling. "Letters?" She drew out the bundle, the red ribbon catching in the sunlight. He stared at it in disbelief before gently taking the stack. Silence, thick and fragile, settled between them as Rowan traced the writing on the top envelope. "Why bring them here?" he finally asked, voice wavering. "You could have tossed them." Layla shook her head, voice soft. "Some words deserve to be received." A quiet moment passed before Rowan nodded, beckoning her inside. Canvases cluttered every inch of the studio, sunbeams brushing fractured color onto the floors. Rowan sat on a wooden stool, letters resting in his lap like fragile bones. "You can stay," he offered, a quick glance her way. "If you want." Curiosity sparkled in Leila's eyes. "I'd like that." Rowan untied the ribbon, and together they began to read. A silence stretching, holding something new. Outside, the waves crashed, but inside, a different tide had begun to turn. For a long moment, the only sound in Rowan's cottage was the slow rustling as he opened the first letter. Leila perched quietly on a paint-splattered chair, watching his face shadow with emotion as he read. The words on the page seemed almost sacred, a bridge across years spent in silent solitude. Rowan finished one letter, then another, his hands trembling just so. He looked up at Leila, vulnerability flickering in the blue of his eyes. "Who wrote these?" he asked quietly. Leila shrugged, her cheeks warm. "There's no name. They were hidden in my grandmother's cottage, under the floorboards. But I think whoever wrote them cared deeply for you." Rowan stared at the faded handwriting. "They feel familiar. There's a scent. Lavender, maybe. My mother used to keep lavender in our rooms." The weight of unanswered questions pressed on them. Leila leaned in. "There are more. Do you want to read them all now?" He shook his head, tucking the letters aside. "No, not yet. Not when I'm still trying to breathe." They sat in the hush of the studio, surrounded by half-finished landscapes and shards of color. Rowan broke the silence, his voice gentler now. "Thank you for bringing them to me. Most people here would have just kept a secret or burned what isn't theirs." Leila smiled, looking toward the window, where sunlight played on dust motes. "I guess I'm not most people." Rowan surprised her with a soft laugh. "No, you're not." A knock rattled the door. Cass's familiar bright voice called out, "Leila, are you hiding from me with the mysterious artist now?" Leila flushed, and Rowan raised his eyebrows. She pushed up from her chair and opened the door to Cass's wide grin and knowing eyes. "Just checking you're alive," Cass teased, "and not locked in a tower." She eyed Rowan before adding quietly, "He's not as scary as people say." Rowan's lips twitched. Cass winked and left with a flutter of earrings. When the door closed, Rowan let out a long breath. "Would you like to come by again? Maybe help me figure out who wrote these?" Leila's heart skipped. "I'd like that very much." As she walked home, salt wind in her hair, Leila clutched the memory of Rowan's smile. A fleeting moment, fragile but promising. The tide of secrets was pulling her somewhere new, and for once, she let herself drift. A week passed, and every afternoon found Leila walking the winding path to the cliffs, always with wildflowers in hand. Each visit made Rowan's cottage feel a bit less like a stranger's space and a bit more like a haven. The fourth visit, Rowan greeted her at the door, smudges of ochre and blue across his cheeks. He looked brighter, lighter, a man transformed with every letter he read. He had sorted them chronologically, a timeline etched in passion and sorrow. "I started a painting," he announced, revealing a canvas cloaked in sweeping strokes of red and violet. At the center, two figures stood beneath a stormy sky, a thread of red weaving between their hands. Leila lingered, fingers tracing the air over the fresh paint. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Are they us? Rowan hesitated, gaze flickering shyly. I think so. They sat side by side, Leila reading aloud, while Rowan listened, eyes closed. Today's letter spoke of regret and dreams lost to fear. If only I had told you that summer. If only kindness was enough. Leila paused, her throat tight. They sound so lonely, almost desperate for a second chance. Rowan opened his eyes, shadows lurking there. I know that feeling. Silence hung between them, heavy with things unsaid. Rowan finally asked, Why did you come here, Leila? Really, most people would have stayed away. Leila traced a swirl in the dust on the table. Maybe because I understand what it's like to be left behind. My father left before I was born. My mom, she always seemed to be between heartbreaks and new beginnings. I guess I look for roots in places, not people. Rowan watched her quietly. You're the first person who hasn't asked me why I'm always alone. Their eyes met, neither looking away. Outside, dusk crept into the world, but inside, Leila felt something blooming. Brave and red and impossible to ignore. Before she left, Leila touched Rowan's sleeve. Let's find out who wrote these letters. For them. For you. Rowan nodded, voice a whisper. For us. As she stepped out into the night, the wind tangled around Leila, like a promise. For the first time, she didn't feel alone with her secrets. The investigation started in earnest. On her next visit, Rowan greeted Leila with a mischievous glimmer in his eye and a spread of old village records on the kitchen table. Births, deaths, marriages, every page was a piece of the puzzle. Leila laughed, surprised. Have you turned into a detective overnight? Rowan grinned. Let's just say the letters woke up something stubborn in me. They pored over the names, looking for anyone who could have written so passionately about Rowan. Gradually, details from the letters offered clues. A mention of a forgotten painting class, a description of a wild spring bonfire, a silver locket shaped like a heart. Leila tapped her pen on the page. Your mother, Rowan. Do you think she ever left letters like these? Rowan looked down, uncertainty crumpling his features. After she died, I found her old journals, but nothing like these. And the handwriting, it's not hers. A knock on the door startled them both. It was old Mr. Jasper from down the lane, white eyebrows and a smile of secrets. Sorry, son. Didn't mean to barge in. Just wanted to return your toolbox. Leila's gaze sharpened. Mr. Jasper, do you remember anyone who came to the cottage years ago? Someone who might have known Rowan's family? He shuffled, thoughtful. Let's see. There was a young woman, always dressed in red. Visited just after Rowan's parents married. She left in a hurry, but she was close with your mother. A silent understanding passed between Leila and Rowan. After Jasper shuffled out, Leila whispered, she could be the one. A friend, not a stranger. Rowan turned another envelope over in his hands, his voice distant. Whoever she was, she loved fiercely. Maybe she lost something too. Leila placed her hand over his. We'll find her, Rowan, and maybe in the process, we'll discover what's meant for us. The fire crackled as evening fell, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the sea raged, but inside, hope flickered, a little brighter each night they spent unraveling secrets side by side. Rain pelted the cottage windows as Leila and Rowan huddled closer over the latest letter, a confession written in anguish and hope. They read in soft voices, each line twisting tighter around the mystery. Even if you never know my name, I want the sea air to carry this love to you. Leila shivered, pulling her cardigan tighter. What kind of love hides for so long, she wondered aloud. Rowan rubbed the back of his neck. A timid kind, or a forbidden one. They exchanged glances, the air thick with questions they were almost afraid to answer. Leila's hand hovered over the table, inches from Rowan's. Maybe we should ask your aunt, she suggested. She's sharp, and she knew your mother's friends. Later that afternoon, under shared umbrellas, they trekked up the muddy lane to Aunt Sylvie's farmhouse. Sylvie answered the door, her sharp eyes missing nothing, as she took in their nervous smiles and damp shoes. You look like kittens in a storm, she teased, before inviting them in with spiced tea and almond biscuits. Leila glanced at Rowan, then spoke. Did your sister have a friend who wore red? Someone who might have written to Rowan years ago? Sylvie stirred her tea, lips pursed. Red? Ah, that'd be Elsie Monroe. She was fire and laughter, Rowan's godmother. She left suddenly, broke your mother's heart in more ways than one. Why? Rowan unfolded the top letter and offered it across the table, the red ribbon still faintly stained by time. We found these, hidden. Sylvie read quietly, her fingers pressed to her lips. When she looked up, her eyes were glassy. Elsie was in love with your mother, Rowan. She never confessed, too afraid. After Helena married your father, Elsie left, her heart broken. Thunder cracked outside. Rowan's hands clenched the letter, grief wrinkling his brow. For Leila. Sympathy and understanding blossomed into something deeper. Her heart echoed the loss, and hidden longing spilled across every page. People hide from love, Leila said softly. But sometimes love leaves clues, hoping someone brave will follow. Rowan glanced at her, something changing in his eyes, a mix of newfound gratitude and admiration. Thanks for helping me be brave. The rain subsided, but inside Sylvie's kitchen, truths lingered long after the teacups were drained. Binding Leila and Rowan together just a little more. Bold days grew longer, the cottage gardens blossoming in defiance of salt and wind. Something unspoken now wove between Leila and Rowan, a warmth threading through shared moments, and a tenderness that made farewells linger at the doorstep. Under the faded oak tree one afternoon, Leila spread the letters in a careful circle. Rowan sketched as she read, trying to catch the way the sunlight tangled in her hair. They puzzled over Elsie's story, piecing together the love she had hidden and the courage she lacked. It's strange, Rowan said, breaking their quiet, how someone can shape your whole past and you never know. Leila tucked a wild daisy behind her ear. Or how secrets make us both braver and more afraid. He laughed lightly. You're the bravest person I know. Not really, she countered. You're the one facing ghosts. A sudden breeze swirled the letters, and Leila hurried to catch them. Rowan's hand closed over hers. For a heartbeat, neither moved. I'm glad you found them, he whispered, his thumb brushing a petal from her cheek. She felt the electricity of the moment, the possibility hanging between them, like the surge before a summer rain. She almost confessed her own growing feelings then, but Rowan drew back, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. That evening, the village hosted its annual bonfire festival. Lanterns floated like low-hanging stars, scents of salt, wood smoke, and sugar weaving through the crowds. Leila arrived with Cass, who nudged her toward Rowan, as music danced over the cliffs. Rowan handed Leila a paper lantern for wishes you can't say out loud. They stood side by side, their lanterns rising together, silent wishes etched in light. He leaned in, voice barely audible over the revelry. "What did you wish for?" Leila smiled, mysterious, something still taking root. As the lanterns drifted seaward, Rowan caught her hand, and this time he didn't let go. But in the shadows, an envelope slipped from Rowan's coat pocket. Leila spotted her own name written in red. The sight of her name in that familiar red ink stopped Leila's breath. She stooped to pick up the letter, fingers tingling. Uncertain, she slipped it into her pocket, choosing to wait until the festival faded and the world grew still. Back in her cozy cottage, lanterns from the festival bobbing outside like tiny sentinels, Leila pressed the envelope to her chest before daring to open it. Inside, Rowan's handwriting trembled with honesty. Leila, you brought color back into this house and into my heart. I'm afraid of needing someone, but even more afraid of never telling you how I feel. Thank you for your courage, for making me believe in hope again. If there's any chance, I want to find out what could bloom between us. Yours, Rowan. Leila read the letter again and again, heart pounding. Had she truly changed him as much as he had changed her? The thought scared her. Nothing she had planted ever meant so much. The next morning, Leila saw Rowan by the cliffs, standing in the sea breeze, arms wrapped around himself. The air between them was tense with possibility. Leila called out, voice trembling. You wrote me a letter, in red. Rowan's cheeks flushed. I wanted to tell you how I felt, but I didn't know if you wanted that. She stepped closer, holding out the letter. I wanted it more than anything. For a moment, all the unsent words and half-hoped wishes seemed to shimmer like the wildflowers swaying in the wind. Rowan reached for her hand, pulling her close. I'm still learning to be brave, but my heart's louder than my fear. Leila laughed, warm and unguarded. Mine too. They stood on the edge of the world, two hearts daring to trust, no secrets left between them. But just as happiness began to settle, Cass burst down the path, waving a telegram. She was breathless, eyes wide with something not quite joy. Leila, you need to see this. It concerns the cottage and, well, everything, she said, thrusting the telegram forward. The summer breeze stilled, and suddenly a new mystery beckoned, promising that their story was far from over. Leila took the telegram from Cass, her hands trembling with anticipation. Rowan tensed beside her, worry flickering in his eyes. The seal was official and intimidating, a rare formality in their simple village lives. Cass hovered anxiously as Leila broke the seal and unfolded the thin sheet. It's from a solicitor in London, Leila read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Apparently, there's something about the title to the cottage and an inheritance. They want to meet tomorrow. Rowan touched her shoulder. Did you know there was anything left unsettled? Leila shook her head. No, Nana left it to me in her will. Or so I thought. But if the letters were hidden there, maybe there's more that I don't know. Cass's gaze darted between them. I heard stories about your grandmother when I was a child, she admitted. People said she always kept a secret door locked. Maybe there's another clue in the house, something you missed. Tension coiled between them as the afternoon sun dipped lower. Leila, Rowan, and Cass walked back to the cottage, determined. The trio searched room by room, tapping on walls and feeling along dusty shelves for hidden compartments. Finally, behind rows of old teacups in the pantry, Rowan's fingers found a hollow panel. With a creak, a panel opened. Inside, a small wooden box tied with yet another red ribbon. Leila drew in a breath. "Should we open it?" Rowan nodded, shoulders set. Together, inside the box lay a faded photograph of Nana as a young woman, her arm around Elsie Monroe, both beaming in matching red dresses. Beneath it, a deed to the cottage in both their names, and a signed letter. "To the one who finds this, our lives are never simple, but love is always worth the risk. If you are reading this, know that you are loved fiercely, from the roots to the wildflowers." Leila's eyes filled with tears. Her grandmother's handwriting was unmistakable. She turned to Rowan, voice trembling. She knew. She knew about Elsie and about the letters. This place, these secrets, they're a legacy. Rowan squeezed her hand, wonder eclipsing doubt. "It's more than a home, Leila. It's every story that came before us. And now, it's ours." The mystery was unraveling, but the telegram's summons still loomed. Tomorrow would bring answers about the cottage, their place in its story, and what it meant for their future. As night fell around them, Leila realized some love stories do not end. They just wait to bloom again. And next morning dawned bright and full of anticipation. Leila and Rowan set off early, the telegram clutched tightly in her hand. Cass waved them off with a wink, promising tea and cakes when they returned, no matter the outcome. The solicitor's office in town felt worlds away from the comfort of their seaside home. Leila's nerves threatened to unravel as they sat across from the stern-faced solicitor, Mr. Brighton. He leafed through a file, then finally looked up with a knowing smile. "Miss Marin, your grandmother's legacy is even richer than you imagined," he began. "She purchased the cottage jointly with Elsie Monroe. When Elsie left, she gave up legal claim, but stipulated that if someone, anyone, discovered the truth of their connection, the cottage would belong to them, provided they understood and honored the heart behind it. By unearthing the letters and following their story, you've demonstrated exactly that." Leila blinked, overwhelmed. "So the cottage is truly ours?" "It is," Mr. Brighton confirmed, pushing across a tidy stack of deed papers. "Yours and Mr. Marchette's, should you choose to share it. There's also a small endowment, your grandmother and Elsie's savings, for the preservation of the garden and art within. They hoped it might continue as a refuge and inspiration for future dreamers and lovers." There were tears in Leila's eyes as she looked at Rowan. He squeezed her hand, a gentle certainty in his voice. "You once asked me what kind of love hides for so long. I think it's the kind that trusts the world will one day find it worthy." Hand in hand, they walked home along the cliffs, pausing where wildflowers nodded in the breeze. Back in the cottage, they spread the letters in red across the table, promising to keep both their stories and those that came before alive. That evening, friends gathered for tea in the garden. Cass toasted to secrets unearthed and new beginnings. Sylvie pressed wildflower bouquets into everyone's arms, claiming the cottage had always known it was waiting for this moment. As dusk settled and the sea sang its endless psalm, Rowan tucked a note behind the kitchen clock. A new letter in red, waiting for a someday future heart to find. Leila watched the sun slip beneath the horizon. Rowan's arms wrapped firmly around her. For the first time, she felt truly rooted, cherished by both the past and the love blooming in the present. And as night fell, the cottage on the cliffs pulsed with laughter, hope, and the quiet magic of love that endures beyond secrets and time.